What's good, beautiful people? I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Today, I want to talk about how you can secure high-paying opportunities. Now, of course, I've been talking a lot about portfolio careers, and essentially a portfolio career is a career that you create. And this has created some contention because some people don't really believe in it. Some people do, but whether you believe or don't believe, it's happening anyway. It's an increasing phenomenon. And it's because there is this urgent need for people to satisfy a lifestyle that they want. And this has become heavily popularized, initially at least anyway, by the majority within the millennial generation who have wanted this but haven't necessarily had those opportunities. They have gone through, again, different sort of like big geo-economic events such as 9/11, the banking and housing crisis, COVID, Brexit, the sort of like movement towards the far right. All of this kind of stuff has been happening. And then you've had the Gen Z population or generation who have been like, well, we've learned from their mistakes and we're just going to go for it sort of thing. There's a different energy and buzz. You had the X generation that has been much more conservative by nature and very much following the 9-to-5 model. And some of them doing well, some of them not doing as great, but they're just busy doing what they're doing. And then obviously the boomers are just enjoying their money, or at least being big kids or whatever it may be. But there is a need. There is a need to want to secure the bag. It's that simple. So that's kind of the context behind it, the pain behind it. There is so much change that's happening that we feel like we need to do more than one thing. Now, the reality is we don't necessarily have to do more than one thing. That's not necessarily what I'm saying when it comes to a portfolio career. What I am saying, though, is that you get to create it. It's less about pursuit and more about creation and defining what that looks like for you. So is this a lifestyle thing? Is this an opportunity thing? Is this a connection thing? Is it an opportunity for you to learn more, achieve more, create more joy in your life, or get more meaning? What is it? Now, some of this stuff may be self-explanatory and still fits with the other model, but with the other model, you're in the same organization for decades. The same organization for decades. And so this is slightly different. This is talking about pursuing different things. Now, how do you start attracting high-end clients or whatever it may be? I'm not going to try and glamorize this because high-end could mean anything to anybody. Let's just say clients. Of course, because we're talking about portfolio careers, this could mean multiple things. This could mean from a 9-to-5 standpoint, this could be as a contractor or consultant or freelancer. So the first thing I want to say is that it's important for you to understand, okay, very clearly what it is that you're good at or what you're good at solving. Why do I say this? Every single business opportunity is solving some sort of problem. Whether this is an education thing, an entertainment thing, an empowerment thing, whether it fits on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What needs are you helping people to get in their lives or sustain in their lives? And so typically speaking, if we're using Maslow's hierarchy of needs as an example, looking at the base needs or basic needs at the bottom, so the first two levels, the first level is more centered around health, okay? Health related stuff makes money. This is why 60% of things searched on the internet is health related. Next level, you got security needs, which is more centered around money or finances, career and jobs, insurance and securities, all this different type of stuff. And then you've got your social needs and you've got your ego needs, and then you've got your transcendence and all that kind of stuff there. I don't know if I've done it in order. It doesn't really matter. The point being made is there is a certain prioritization level and you need to see where you fit within that space. Now, one way of defining what problem to solve is to think about what different things have you done in a job before. Has there been a consistency? Has there been any themes that have popped up? Yes, I've said this before, but there's going to be slightly a different spin in this session here. So like the way Alex Hormozius described this, I recently started watching his interview with Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO. He was like, essentially, profession is a great way to validate that a market exists. I was like, yeah, I've been saying that this whole time. Exactly that. Your profession does. But you may be thinking, who's going to want my skills outside of this organization that I'm working in or industry? Many people. It's whether you have checked. But before we get into that space, you need to be able to recognize and understand if your skills are in demand. Now, of course, by virtue of you working your 9 to 5, that's defining that's in demand. But can you sort of like assess this through speaking to different people who have certain pain points that you can alleviate? Whether you can check marketplaces. Okay, so again, if you're looking for a new role on CV Library, are you seeing multiple project managers popping up? Are you seeing multiple project managers popping up on Indeed or JobServe or whatever it may be? When it comes to, let's say, for example, you're making a product, a digital product, can you find demand or people using a certain type of product on Udemy or Coursera or whatever it may be? So marketplaces are a great way of understanding demand, but you need to know what that looks like. Demand will come to you, or you proactively go out and check those different marketplaces. In addition to that, you can speak to different people. So maybe there are people you've spoken to who've connected with you and again have had a specific thing, and you've tried to articulate and understand specifically what problem they're trying to solve. I've recently done this. So I would say over the last 4 to 6 weeks, I've been speaking to a number of different people. I've spoken to close to 10 individuals at the moment. These have come from people who have watched my content, or I've met at events, or I've been introduced to, and I've tried to dissect and understand specifically what type of problems they want solved. And this is what has launched this YouTube stuff, me talking more specifically about careers. In fact, it was a conversation that I had with my wife, trying to understand her career journey and what things she's going through, to understand or help me understand how I can position myself better, because I realized actually she's within my audience. Some people in the back are like, help your wife. The point being made is, it was the conversations that I had that helped me to understand the demand. Demand and supply, demand and supply, demand and supply. Don't just supply the thing, okay? Don't just create the thing. Understand what demand looks like. Create that based on the understanding of what you have in the market. And there's the other scenario where you're the person who has the problem, okay? You have this problem yourself and you want it solved. And so you need to be really clear about not only, number one, understanding what sort of thing you want to dive into based on evidence and experience that you've had previously before. But two, you want to assess the market. Assess the market well, because once you understand the market, I'm telling you, that's where it changes, because you start to understand the language they use. You understand how to position yourself. You understand what not to say, okay? And so all of this stuff needs to align. So when you start off with this initial phase, okay, of understanding what problems you want to solve based on experience and expertise and skills that you have, you move into that space. So once you have those first two sort of like knuckled down, you then want to optimize your personal profile, your professional profile. That professional profile can look like a CV. It can look like a supporting statement. It can look like your LinkedIn. It can look like your website. It can look like a portfolio. It kind of doesn't matter what it is, as long as it matters to that market and you're choosing the right thing. So for example, if you are optimizing your CV for the profile bit, are you effectively talking about what your specialism is? Are you highlighting 1 to 2 or 3 skills that clearly aligns to that type of specialism, okay, or that role? And are you giving examples of how you've evidenced that you're good at this stuff? When it comes to your portfolio, do you have associations, organizations, or brands that you've worked with that edify your experience and highlight that, yes, you are the go-to person? Do you have testimonials that, again, align to or support what it is that you say you do? When it comes to your LinkedIn, again, is your experience buffered out when it comes to the problems that you solve, the actions that you've taken, and the results that you've had, tangible results? Again, that thread is so important. So you have to find a way to be able to showcase your skills, okay, and really understand how it can be presented. Now, the way you sort of like prevent yourself from being in a position where you're presenting the wrong thing is getting feedback. Feedback is really important. It can't be unhelpful feedback. It needs to be constructive feedback. Whether you take it, I guess, sometimes we can take any form of feedback personally. But really, you need to get as much feedback as possible, because that's the only way you're going to learn. So this feedback could be from somebody who could be a potential client, okay, so a prospect. This could be a hiring manager if it's within the career space. This could be somebody who has an objective or keen eye or professional eye within your friendship or family group. Get some feedback so you understand. Of course, the ultimate feedback that we can get these days is from AI. So we can use things like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Notebook LM, etc., etc. All these different things can help. Of course, some of you have been using DeepSeek and Quen and all these other ones, but you can use this stuff to give you the feedback that you need. And of course, yes, AI can do hallucinations and stuff, but the feedback gives you an opportunity to look at it and anchor yourself and say, do I agree with this? Do I not agree with it? The language that you use is key. The language that you use is key. When I talk about my PAR model, problem, action, result, with the action element, it is fundamental that you are using language that aligns to a methodology that is known to your audience. So if it's a B2C thing, let's say, for example, you're a business owner or coach and you're talking about, again, how you help these individuals, are you using the right language? Okay, maybe you're saying you help clients lose weight. Maybe you're talking about different foods or diets. Maybe you're talking about support virtually or video wise. Maybe you're talking about like all this kind of stuff. Again, if you are a business analyst, are you utilizing a framework? Maybe it's a blueprint that you've helped to design. Maybe you've helped to sort of like define the process optimization for something, whatever it may be. Okay. You have to be able to speak the language, but it's not enough to just talk about keywords or use keywords. It has to make sense. And this is why with the action bit, it needs to be clear what you are responsible for or accountable for. Okay. And this is where it's backed up by the key results or the benefits that you've realized. That is something in relation to money you've made, money you've saved, or a quality enhancement of some way, shape or form, or a process improvement. Okay. When it comes to efficiency, productivity, or effectiveness. So hopefully that makes sense. So optimizing your professional profile is key. The next thing, which is kind of linked to assessing the market, is identifying the market. One thing that is sort of like underrated is marketplaces. There is a marketplace for everything. Some marketplaces are more defined than others. Okay, so what do I mean by this? There are some situations where people applying for government contracts, okay, not for a recruitment agency or whatever it may be, need to go onto some sort of tendering portal or contracting portal. That is a marketplace. When it comes to looking for a job on Reed or CV Library, that is a marketplace. When it comes to looking for, contracts or consulting gigs or whatever it may be, let's say using Juno as an example, that is a marketplace. Another marketplace may be something like LinkedIn if you're doing something B2C. So understand where your prospects or clients are hanging out. Understand their activities. And you know what's interesting? Like, we've used social media so much that sometimes we believe that, again, engagement defines demand. And to some degree it does. It's some sort of feedback, but it doesn't necessarily define it, because there are many people out there who are doing businesses, who are doing portfolio careers that don't rely on social media. And the feedback they get is a callback or someone seeing their profile and saying, hey, I want what they have. Let's have a conversation. And so identifying the right marketplace is fundamental. Do some research, do your due diligence. Are you looking in the right place? And this is where speaking to people may be helpful. So you want to speak to people who are on the other end, who are potential clients or prospects, but you also want to speak to people who are the providers, who are the doers. So such as yourself, who are able to find these opportunities. So you understand if you're in the right space. I'm telling you, that's underrated. If you were to forget everything else, which I think is really important to teeing you up, knocking at the door is also extremely important. But you have to knock at the right door, because if you're the pizza delivery guy and you deliver to the wrong door, you're either going to provide value to the wrong person or they're going to be very upset with you for whatever reason. I doubt anyone's going to be upset if they get free pizza. But the point they may be lactose intolerant. That may be a messy story. The point being made is you need to know what marketplace makes sense for you. You need to know what that looks like. Following on from that, you have to be able to have the right conversations. Okay. What do I mean by this? Well, you're in the right sort of like marketplace. Okay. You've applied for something. Let's say, for example, it's a job, or it's a contract, or it's a consulting gig, or it's a freelance thing on, let's say, Fiverr.com or some of those other ones. I think it's People Per Hour, it used to be called. What's the next step? There is going to have to be some sort of proposal, okay? This proposal may be the CV that you provide, so you would have done the work beforehand. But assuming that they're happy with everything that you've put in front of them, Conversations need to be had. This may be an interview. This may even be a discovery call if you're a coach. Okay, so you have to master what that looks like. But the point being made is you have to practice this. So how do you practice interview sessions or skills? Of course, you know, you could use things like, I think there's something called Google Interviews where, again, the AI listens to what you're saying based on questions that ask you and it gives you feedback. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is using AI to generate 20 questions and you answer all of those questions and there are model answers that you can feedback on later on. Another thing that you can do is, again, you can use, I think it's Microsoft PowerPoint's app on your phone, and let's say for example you need to present something, you can practice the pitch or presentation and it will check how many you've had, how fast you're going, all of that kind of jazz. So there are tools like that. Of course, you can practice in front of friends and family and loved ones or your coach or mentor. You can also put yourself in a position where you're literally just saying things out loud, you record it and then you listen to it and then you practice again, record it, listen to it again and just see how you've improved. Like, there are so many different ways you can do it. But for me, essentially, if you understand PAR, at least if you are being interviewed, problem, action, result, you don't need to do all of that stuff because you've got examples for everything, because you understand what problems you've solved in different experiences, you know, what actions you've took, you know what tangible results you've had. Yes, it doesn't hurt to have some sort of practice questions, but it's not a predictive thing. On the other side, let's say, for example, you're trying to secure a client, it makes sense to practice the sort of like closing element of things, or like, okay, cool. And this is how I think about it because I'm in the program management space. This is how I think about it. It's a gap analysis. So you start off with the pain. You talk about specifically what pains that individual has. So they talk to that stuff. Okay. And you really tease that stuff out. Then two, you talk about, again, what sort of desires are they looking for? What are they trying to achieve and how do they want to achieve it? And then you talk about what they believe is the bridge from their pain to the desire that they want to actually achieve. Again, loads of marketers talk about this stuff. They'll call it different stuff. But in the program management space, this is actually a thing. It's called the gap analysis. Business analysts, project managers, they use this thing to support some endeavors in programs and projects. So once all of that stuff is done, again, it comes down to how do you seal the deal? How do you close it? You talk to them a little bit about what you offer, and then, you know, they'll say whatever it may be. Then, you know, you basically drop the price, wait for them to say what they need to say, and then they say what they need to say. They may have questions or they may purchase your product or service. I said this in a very high level way, but it's all a conversation. It's all a conversation. And what I've realized is whether you're interviewing or not, you have to either coach yourself or coach the individuals, depending on what side you're on, in order for you to be effective with your communication. This is why all of that stuff is important that I highlighted before you get to this stage. So once that's done, hopefully you secure the bag, you secure the opportunity, you get yourself in a position where you're ready. And the way you get more of these opportunities is by doing exceptionally well and providing high value within this space. That's what you do. Okay. So you think of, okay, what am I going to do? What big or quick wins am I going to provide in the first 2 weeks? What am I going to do in the next 6 weeks? Like I said in my previous video, what deliverable do I want to hit? What am I going to do in the first 3 months or 6 months? Whatever it may be, whatever you're deciding to do, there needs to be a game plan. This is why understanding the methodology, i.e. the actions that you took based on the expertise that you have, is really important, because that makes things more efficient. You'll have templates, or you'll start to produce templates. You'll have systems which are supported by those templates. You'll understand what needs to be done in the guise of the framework that you're working towards. I'm telling you, man, this is why you should create the career that you need to create. And this is why I talk about the portfolio careers, because this is applicable. It doesn't matter whether it's career or business. It's very similar. Now, of course, there are some things this doesn't fit for. I'm not talking to this stuff. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck for everything. I'm talking about the things that it makes sense for. And so if this has resonated, if this has made sense to you, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and if you have an alternative view as well. Again, if you want to see more things centered around portfolio careers, life management, leadership contracting, all the stuff, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.